David Muir has done very, very well for himself, rising from the ranks of local TV news to become anchor of ABC's World News Tonight. But with that seat change has come a sea change, a definite ploy to get younger viewers, and it appears to be working. Emily Rooney has more.
World News Tonight with David Muir has definitely taken a page out of local news, starting with, what else? The weather.
Now to growing concern in the West this evening. At least 10 wildfires raging. From the fires now to the massive flooding. A car caught in the rushing water.
And borrowing from another local news ploy, tease often, tease deep, and tease something people will stick around to see.
What you didn't know coming up.
Except you have to wait until the end of the show to find out. And somehow we just can't picture CBS's Scott Pelley doing some of the other stories in ABC's lineup.
And the first day, America's future smiling back at us tonight. Look, a mountain lion on the loose in a quiet neighborhood crouching under a jet ski. And why the dog in this new Budweiser ad is stopping people in their tracks.
But if World News Tonight is going to the dogs, it's paying off in spades. Viewers in the all-important 25 to 54 age group are up, and ABC has won that group for the past 7 weeks. And Muir knows how to play the crowd.
Many of you tweeting me during the break hoping this next one ends well.
And there's something else going on here, too. A constant and conscientious call for the viewer's attention.
Just look at it. Just watch this. You can see it on the big wall. Watch right there. Look at this. Watch this.
We're watching. We're just not sure what to make of it.
Well, I confess I am more of a Peter Jennings, Tom Brokaw kind of guy. I still pine for the anchors that I grew up with, but I also don't watch a lot of network news these days. And if the ratings are up, I guess they're doing something right.
I think you have seen a trend in the post-rather Brokaw, Jennings era that the individual programs are more willing to diversify themselves in tone, in subject matter. It's not the same stories leading on every broadcast. So I understand that in an era of much increased competition where you're not just having 3 choices, it makes sense to try and define yourself in some sort of way. I will confess, I was watching over the weekend on Apple TV. The ABC News app has a wonderful feature that lets you see old broadcast segments from historical events. And I was looking back and seeing old Ted Koppel, old Peter Jennings, and then I caught a little bit of David Muir's broadcast a couple days ago, and it's pretty different. The tone is not really recognizable in a real sense. So it's not my cup of tea. But again, in the kind of market where there's so many more choices, it makes sense that they're picking something and laying down a bet.
Well, his persona is really interesting, right? He's not the distinguished news anchor so much as your handsome news companion, which is okay maybe because a lot of what he's doing is not exactly news. I mean, we've had the exclusive interview with Tim Cook backstage about how awesome the Apple Watch is. You know, he's got his traveling show where he goes to factories where they make things in America, which is, boosterish and interesting.
He wears the hard hat.
He wears the hard hat nicely. He's always, no tie, and he's got his black shirt on. It's really an internet. It's beyond cable to being kind of an internet take on the news.
Mm-hmm. Kelly, is this sort of morning TV, Good Morning America, Today, that kind of thing, pushing its way into the evening?
For ABC, not for CBS. So let me lead with, I watch CBS in the morning and CBS at night because the way they present the stories are just much different. Even different from, the Rathers and, the Brokaws and all of that. They do a serious job, but they also do it, I think, very well. If anybody had told me David Muir, who used to work here, would end up being the anchor on ABC, I would have been shocked. But I will say this about him. Aside from the boosterism out in the field, he has done some really good reporting in hard spots. I've seen that. So that at least gives him the confidence to, I think, connect with folks his own age and folks who are younger. I got to say, though, I'm a little surprised by the numbers going up, and they had nowhere else to go but up because people who are younger, are not watching network news, as we know. So,
and they're still small. It's not as if a flock of millennials who are suddenly watching ABC News tonight.
Right, what do you think?
Yeah. I would say give him a chance. I mean, the thing is now, we have other anchors that are in their mid-50s, and he's replacing Diane Sawyer, who was 68, who is 68, excuse me. I'm almost 68, so and that seems young to me. But when he comes on that way, it strikes me that this is something he can gain that gravitas with a little bit more of this kind of work. I don't think he's going to be stuck in that mold. I think he may learn. He's brought something fresh to that program, I think, and I think he will straighten out.
We should point out they also have George Stephanopoulos in this sort of news editor emeritus role. I can't remember his exact title, but it seems to be an understanding that when there are big, serious stories to cover, like the presidential election, he'll be the guy. Right.
Yes, which I thought was a little insulting.
And it was also, in a slightly separate story, Chuck Todd giving an interview to Breitbart News, the very conservative site, saying it's really terrible when there are former political operatives who are playing important roles in political news on television. That seemed like not a very subtle hit at George Stephanopoulos.
Yeah, that was a blatant hit. And it was also odd to decry the partisanship of much of the media in an interview with Breitbart News.
Right.
I mean, that's a head scratcher right there. Right.
I wonder if it has to do with Disney at all. They own ABC, right?
Well, in what way? What do you mean?
Well, that maybe that's the idea of going for the young viewer.
I think it's more like this Disney.
They were owned by Disney when I was there, and then Peter Jennings was there, owned by Disney. So,
All right.
you know.